After 30 years, I finally exposed my stepsister who made my life hell. And now my family knows the truth. I am a 40 years old man in a relationship for over 20 years with two wonderful daughters under 10 years old. I managed to build a relatively calm life as a lawyer, but it didn't come easy. For most of my life, I was trapped in a living hell created by my stepsister, whom I call now the devil. It's the first day of October in the year 2024. To give you some background, my biological father died when I was very young, around 5 years old. My mom was left to raise me and my two brothers, one older and one younger, on her own. A few years later, she remarried a widower who had a daughter my age. I was around 6 to 8 years old at the time. From the moment our families merged, this girl, my stepsister, decided that my brothers and I had destroyed her life by invading her world. She was hell-bent on ruining us, and her goal was clear: separate her father from my mother so they could live together, just the two of them. She took it upon herself to be my constant tormentor. Now, on the surface, you would never know. In public, she played the role of a sweet, innocent girl, an absolute angel. But behind closed doors, she was pure evil. She fed her father and my mom lie after lie about me and my brothers, making me out to be some kind of monster. Over time, they completely bought into her stories. Meanwhile, I was left wondering why I was the family pariah. Growing up, I was treated like the black sheep, the evil one. The problem? I never really understood why. I was the only one in the family who didn't receive an allowance ever. The only one not allowed to drive. The only one who wasn't sent abroad to study for a year like my brothers. The only one whose friends were not allowed to come to the family house. The only one who was constantly beaten. You get the picture. I didn't even get to have a cell phone when all my peers were getting them in the 90s. I wasn't allowed to go away for weekends with friends, and if I wanted to go out, I had to sneak out because asking for permission was a guaranteed no, just for laying some dumb examples I can think of right now. Worse, I wasn't even allowed to get a job growing up because they thought it was dangerous for me to have money. When I finally got selected by a very prestigious lawyer to work and learn with him in my second semester of the university, I was thrilled. Turned out he was the best at teaching and the worst at paying, so I had no money. When I got a girlfriend, I had no money to take her out because my parents refused to give me any. Asking for the car to go see her, at least at the early beginning, was a sure fight. This lawyer said to me when he hired me that he needed my commitment for at least 2 years, and I said yes. But after 1 year, my situation was impossible. All day between university, office, courthouse, clients, study, reports, contracts, girlfriend, friends, no money and no support was hard. So I needed a better paying job. I got an offer from another firm and took it out of need. I still remember the face of the first lawyer when I told him. He knew about my situation and he hated my parents, but it's not like he was going to support me either. I never realized what I did until years later. When I finally managed to save enough to buy my own car, I wasn't allowed to park it at home. In the end, I was the only one kicked out of the house. All this time, I was racking my brain trying to figure out why my family treated me this way. Despite countless attempts to expose my stepsister for the manipulative liar that she was, no one ever believed me. It was like she had them all under a spell. My family was obsessed with appearances. We have to look perfect on the outside, and any issues within the family were swept under the rug. One of those hidden secrets was that my stepsister had been diagnosed with schizophrenia traits and other psychological disorders. She had even spent time in an institution, but no one in the family ever talked about it. And if they didn't acknowledge it, it didn't exist, right? It drove me insane. Fast forward 30 years, and I've distanced myself from my family for my own sanity. I'm living a peaceful life with my wife and daughters. Meanwhile, the devil is still single at 40, living with and fully supporting a broke 60-year-old divorced man with a 6-year-old daughter. This guy has no money. Yet, she has chosen to take care of him. It's baffling, but also so on brand for her. About 2 years ago, my mom and stepfather asked me for legal advice about their will and estate planning. They wanted to make sure everything was in order for when they passed away. The relationship between us had become cordial at best, but I agreed to help. Then, as always, the devil found out. She completely lost her mind, accusing my mom of trying to rob her of her inheritance. She claimed that because she was the only real daughter, she should be the sole heir. To her, my brothers and I were nothing but thieves trying to take what was rightfully hers. She swore she would destroy us all, my mom, my brothers, and me. Then things got darker. She started spreading vicious rumors within the extended family. She accused my older brother of abusing her when we were younger, around 20 years ago, and she claimed that I had molested 2 of our cousins. She even hinted that my own daughters were in danger around me. Naturally, this caused a huge stir, and my step-uncle, the father of one of the cousins I supposedly molested, was ready to kill me. I'm pretty sure the only thing that stopped him was the fact that we live in different countries. At this point, I knew things were about to spiral out of control. Some of my darkest secrets were at risk of being exposed, so I decided to get ahead of it. I took my wife and I drove to my parents' house. I sat them down and I told them everything, every embarrassing detail. I told them about my attraction to trans women, my secret kisses with one of the cousins I supposedly molested. We were teenagers and we were not even family. We were introduced and told that from now on we were cousins. I mean, come on! Plus, nothing inappropriate ever happened. I told them about my occasional smoking habits, knowing full well how deeply religious my parents are. We're talking Opus Dei level here, so even the mention of weed was a bombshell. So I put out my whole past in front of my parents and wife, every embarrassing detail, in order for the devil to have no more weapons. This was tough, I'm not gonna lie. I ended up in the hospital a couple of days later, almost dying from pancreatitis due to the toll that this took on my body. I laid everything on the table, and to my surprise, they believed me. The devil had tormented them for so long that they finally started to see the truth. They realized that maybe I wasn't the problem after all. It only took them 30 years, right? They asked me what they should do. At this point in my life, I have dealt with my more than fair share of abusers. My dad began before dying, when I was 3 to 4 years old. So I told them that if they really want the truth to come out, they must not engage with her. Let her feel and think that her attacks are not working. We agree that I will tell all my brothers and half-brothers about the situations, and tell them that they have to do the same. I told them not to engage with her. Let her self-destruct. The more we ignore her, the more desperate she would become, and eventually she would make a mistake without any of us doing anything directly to her, so she cannot play the victim role. Important here also to note that, as you can imagine, nobody outside the immediate family would ever believe us, since she has always maintained this impeccable image and never ever had made a mistake. But this time I just know she will, so we put it in motion. We don't talk to anyone, not even my stepfather's brother who wants to kill me. We deny nothing, we engage in nothing. The devil is constantly saying that she will go public And so, but never does. And it is obvious because abusers never do, since doing so would cause them to lose that power over you. For 2 years, we didn't engage. We stayed silent. The devil was left ranting and raving to herself. No one responded, no one gave her any attention. And I knew it was killing her. Then 2 weeks ago, one of my stepbrothers got married, and we all attended the wedding. We hadn't seen each other in a while, and the devil assumed my wife and my brother's wife were still in the dark about everything. She thought my brothers were clueless too. She couldn't have been more wrong. At the wedding, no one greeted her. No one acknowledged her broke sugar daddy either. Tons of pictures were taken, but in most of them, she and her boyfriend were conveniently cut out. The next day, she finally snapped and made her first mistake ever. She texted my wife, ranting about how I was a terrible person and a danger to our daughters, saying that we will never speak again, telling her about the horrible human being I am, what a limited and traitorous man I am, and offering to tell her the truth about me when she felt strong and ready. She thought she was dropping a nuke into my marriage. My wife, of course, already knew everything. She finally showed all her true colors there out of desperation, putting out a part of herself that she never revealed in public before. So, obviously, after spending time on Reddit, and I know what to do next. I screenshotted that text and I sent it to our extended family group chat. The one with all the cousins, uncles, and everyone else. I finally exposed her after 30 plus years, publicly confronting her and asking her to tell the truth she kept threatening to reveal. She then made her second mistake. She replied in the group chat, totally gaslighting me. She downplayed everything, claiming I was making a big scene and that I was always overreacting, saying how I'm making such a huge scandal as usual and how I always have been like this. How my reaction is completely unjustified and that I should stop doing shows and performances and grow up. You can imagine the rest. Then she made her third mistake. She texted my wife again, asking her to delete my crazy messages and saying that she only wanted to clear everything up without drama and that there is absolutely no justification for how I acted. I, of course, screenshotted that text too, and I sent it to the group chat. I told her we would never have a private conversation again, and I invited her to share her truth with the whole family. I think that's when she fully grasped the concept that she was in the extended family group chat, and not the immediate family chat, stepfather, mom, and siblings, all of whom she was used to manipulating. She realized she had just exposed herself in front of the whole family. It's been 2 weeks and the group chat is dead silent. My mom called me afterward. She said, I think I'm realizing I may have been wrong about you for almost your entire life. But you forgive me, right? I don't even know how to respond to that. After 30 years of being the scapegoat, the black sheep, I finally exposed the person who tormented me. It almost cost me everything, but it was worth it. And for the first time in my life, I feel safe. I never realized I didn't know how safe felt. I don't know how to move forward, especially with my family, and them beginning to see me differently for the first time in my life, and I'm not sure, and I even want a deep relationship at this point. Thanks for reading me. I would love to read comments and suggestions. And just in case, I must clarify that despite several differences with stepfather growing up, damn, it was brutal, to this day, our relationship is close to beautiful. At the wedding, he told me he loved me for the first time ever, and I cried like a little kid. Not there. But later. Additionally, I must clarify that I'm not judging anyone for anything, and I am and I have always been, and I have been always responsible for my actions in how to handle this in my life, and I'm not playing the victim of the dice. I'm just trying to tell it as it I'm just trying to tell it as I lived it and as objective as possible. I also do not hold a grudge with my mom, nor do I carry with me a list of her mistakes. She did what she had to do, being a single mother of 3 trying to survive, and did what she best knew how to do. I don't hold anything against her, and we have a cordial relationship and see each other every once in a while for family meals where only mom, stepfather, older brother, younger half-brothers attend. When stepsister is in town, there are no family meals, and I attend mostly because of the girls, so they can have a relationship with their cousins and grandparents. Situations of the past about us do not need to affect them, and the relationship between them, my girls and the rest of my mom, my girls and the rest of the family is always strictly supervised by my wife and I. Also, wife is my angel. She's an angel, she's just precious. I can't begin to describe how grateful I am to her. I deeply love her and we have built something beautiful over the years. Not easy, not for everyone, but beautiful.
I think you need to cut them all off and step away for your own sanity. You have a family and it's not them. Focus on the people that love you.
Yeah. I think so too. And also it is still very soon to see clearly. The water is still quite shaken.
If I was you, I'd have killed everyone off long time ago. For God, you're a much nicer person than me.
And I bet you're nice in your own special way.
Yep, I am. Yes, but only towards nice people. Yeah, I'm not clear why you have any contact with any of these people. You have given this woman way too much power over you.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Do not forget that your mother asked for forgiveness without taking accountability for her actions. She never apologized and hasn't offered to repair the relationship. At minimum, but a private and public apology is warranted here.
That is precisely what my wife and I talked about. But she says, and probably is right, that this is the most I'm going to get out of her.
Creo que necesitas simple y llanamente separarte de ellos por completo y alejarte por tu propia cordura. Tienes una familia y no son ellos. Céntrate en la gente que te quiere.
Quizás tengas razón, pero también es demasiado pronto para ver claramente las cosas. Verás, el agua sigue tensa y en movimiento.
Si yo estuviera en tus zapatos, ya habría cortado todo lazo con esa gentuza hace mucho tiempo. Para siempre. Eres una persona mucho más amable que yo.
Estoy seguro de que eres una persona buena y amable a tu propia manera.
Sí, Simón, lo soy. Sí, pero solo con la gente educada y amable. Sí, no tengo claro por qué tienes contacto con ninguna de esas personas. Le has dado a esta arpía demasiado poder sobre ti.
Sí, estoy de acuerdo contigo.
No olvides que tu madre pidió perdón sin responsabilizarse de sus actos. Nunca se disculpó y no se ha ofrecido a reparar ni enmendar la relación. Como mínimo, ella debe pedir disculpas públicas y privadas.
De eso hablamos mi mujer y yo, y ella dice, y a decir verdad, ella tiene razón, que esto es lo único que obtendré de mi mamá.
Je fattar inte den här historien. Varför anklagade hon bara Opie för att ljuga och inte bröderna? Vad anklagade han sen Ansopi för? Varför sa inte bröderna ifrån? Varför sa inte bröderna ifrån? Vad är åldersskillnaden mellan Opie och stepsister? Jag har så många frågor, men det här får räcka.
I'm only talking about my part of the story and not mentioning anything about my other brothers, because that is not mine to tell. But of course, it was not just me. She had different tactics with each one of us. I am just referring to mine. Brothers had their own stuff. Stepsis and I are exactly the same age. I'm 2 months older.
Ek dink dat ek besef het dat ek verkeerd was oor jou al my hele lewe lank. Maar jy vergewe my, né? I think I'm realizing I may have been wrong about you for almost your entire life. But you forgive me, right? Oh, no. She didn't even apologize. She just went straight to confirming she was forgiven. I frankly suggest don't.
At this point, I'm not even sure that there is anything to forgive anymore, you know?
Ek dink dat ek besef het dat ek verkeerd was oor jou al my hele lewe lank. Maar jy vergewe my, né? I think I'm realizing I may have been wrong about you for almost your entire life. But you forgive me, right? Oh, no. She didn't even apologize. She just went straight to confirming she was forgiven. I frankly suggest don't.
At this point, I'm not even sure that there is anything to forgive anymore, you know?
I'm honestly intrigued. Some parts of your story I didn't catch well, but overall your story is quite captivating. It's fantastic to see evil people getting what's coming to them. I have some questions. What did your stepsister actually accuse you of? What did your family actually believe about you all this time? Did they think you were an insane alcoholic? Why did telling them your every secret get them to trust you after 30 years and following your plan of ignoring your stepsister?
Of what she accused me of, I won't get into details. Just imagine reputation destroying things. Serious things, the most awful things our parents could imagine. And also the social circle we both belonged at. I managed to change school just to get away from that, but with delicacy and care. What did they believe? Whatever they heard, I guess. Telling everything about me to my parents freed me from her, because much of the things I was ashamed of, she knew of. And she used those things she knew of in order to threaten me that she'd tell her parents. So by exposing myself, I left her without that. And for the last part, I guess they were desperate because Devil was becoming more and more out of control. So they said something like, "Fuck it."
Blah, ew. This is revolting to read. This audacity sickens me. This sounds like something my mom would ask, and the only acceptable response is the one that will make her feel good. My mom's not a terrible person, but at times she was a terrible parent, and all of her adult children just pretend we didn't notice. In your situation, it would have been appropriate and honest to ask, are you asking for forgiveness or assuming you already have it? 30 years of mistreatment is hard to forgive in a moment, especially without a direct apology.
I totally understand what you mean. I don't think she's a terrible person at all. I just think she dealt with a tough hand and did what she knew how to do. And I think that in her mind, what she did was the best she could do, and I also thank her. When my father died, we were almost on the streets. By getting remarried, she sought to give us some sort of future.
In my lewe het ek 2 mense net so teëgekom. Hulle is absoluut diabolies. Ek sal hulle nie op my ergste vyand toewens nie. That's how bad they are. And I'm not exaggerating at all. The first one, I don't know if she's ever been diagnosed, but I definitely think she's at least bipolar. The second one has actually been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. But one thing is for sure, no one believes me when I warn people about them until they are on the receiving end of it. The first one is when I learned how to handle these types of people and to not engage. People like this, they feed off the argument. Simply put, don't feed the beast. You will not win because they will not stop arguing until you get tired and stop. And that means a win for them. They will basically argue you into submission. It's exhausting. All the while they're in a crazy frenzy while arguing. They will harass one person until somebody else gets their attention and they have someone else to harass and be their whipping post for all their problems. They are like a dog with a bone when they go after someone. They are in it to destroy the person. The first one went after a friend of mine and spent 5 years harassing and slandering my friend, trying to ruin her reputation and life. She nearly did too. She was absolutely relentless. She made phone calls all over the world to slander and trying to badmouth my friend. The real kicker, the whole thing stemmed from her sticking her nose into my friend's personal business and getting mad when it backfired in her face and people got mad at her instead. She then blamed my friend for a ruined relationship with a mutual friend when she's the one that did it to herself. But she couldn't see that. It was much easier to blame my friend. We just all ended up just cutting her off. And you're right, they hate being ignored. You can't win an argument with them, so the best defense is to not engage. They literally lose their minds when you do that, because how can they keep an argument going when you don't participate? Die tweede een was 'n vrou saam met wie ek hoërskool toe gegaan het. En een van my beste vriende het weer met haar in verbinding getree. The second one was a woman that I went to high school with, and one of my best friends got reconnected with her. She was palling around with this girl, and I tried to warn my friend that that would be a bad idea. My friend didn't listen, thought she was great. She moved in with her despite my concern, and within about a year, she fled the house with only the clothes on her back. And this girl set about stalking, slandering, and trying to ruin my friend's life. My friend was too afraid to go get her own belongings, even after a court appearance. Not to mention, the woman sold much of her stuff in a garage sale and also threw stuff away to be nasty. This woman has since gone through several boyfriends, even a husband who she was physically violent with, but then claimed to be the victim. The most recent boyfriend is currently in jail for assaulting her. While I don't condone anybody to be assaulted, I can only imagine how much she got in this guy's face to push him to that. I know how intense she can get. She will get right in your face. She will push you physically, and I think she intended for him to get violent with her. Last I knew, she was suing him. Of course, all her online friends only ever hear how much of a victim she is. And unfortunately, she is a beautiful woman on the outside. She just has a crazy, screaming, nutty center. Many men would line up to date her because she puts on a good face when she needs to. Her friends, the ones she has, don't live near her, so they truly think she's the victim. Unfortunately, she is the common denominator in all her messed up and failed relationships, but somehow people aren't putting that together. Maar ek dink as jy nog nooit met so iemand te doen gehad het nie, kom het waarskynlik nie by hulle op dat daar mense daar buite is wat so diabolies en boos is nie. But I guess if you have never dealt with someone like this, then it probably doesn't occur to them that there are people out there that are that diabolical and evil.
Jy het sopas stepsister akkurat beskryf. Die stories wat jy vertel is asof ek oor my kinderjare lees. Dit is net niet zo moeilijk, vooral als jij in de middel van gewang wordt. Dit was zo moeilijk om afstand te complassen. Van Hulle laat jou net niet tot niet. Dit is mal. Nadat ik geleerd het hij die handterig van haar, het dit mij ook geholpen om zekere eigenschappen varianter te herkennen. En dit is altijd een groot reel voor mij of ik daar die persoon in mijn leven zal willen of niet. And yeah, you just accurately describe a stepsister. The stories you tell, it's like I'm reading about my childhood. It's just so difficult, especially when you get caught in the middle. It was so hard to be able to put distance because they just won't tell you. It's crazy. After learning from dealing with her, it has also helped me recognize certain traits in others. And that always is a big rule for me regarding whether I want that person in my life or not.
My guy, my friend, you were still one option, and that was the long game. I applaud the patience and discipline. I mean now, that's gonna be the most liberating feeling right now. But my advice is that don't make the people close to you pay for their mistakes. Keep them at a safe distance, but maybe slowly see if they can reintegrate. After all, they are still your family, and we have but limited time on this planet. I'm not saying open arms, but since you were able to write this out after 30 years and come out on top, I'm sure you can really figure out if they deserve any redemption or not. I don't know if I could do what I am saying myself after reading that, but just take some time and think about what might best for everyone. No one will blame you though, if you decided to keep them away too.
Thank you, Reddit. And by the way, first of all, let me begin by thanking each and every one of you who took the time to read and comment. I was honestly not prepared for so many, so fast, and your inquiries for clarification to me speak of actual interest and pursuit of understanding, and that to me is beautiful. Next, I want to thank all of you for your kind words. This experience is very interesting because you get to read objective opinions from total strangers, and the difference in perspective can be quite useful. Many of the things you shared were not noticed by me before, and it helps in creating and walking the future path, whichever that may be. Thanks for the love. Each comment received feels strange and important at the same time, but the loving ones reach the heart with no obstacle. I want to apologize for all those things that are just not clear or seem contradictory. I've been reading your comments and I've been trying to reply individually, but it's just too much. I'm also not used to spending so much time in my phone. If you add to that the equation that the fact that I'm not a native English speaker, well, things get a little tricky. As a cherry on top of that cake, when I made the post, all I could think of was putting it out there. And I can see I allow my own emotions to interfere with the coherence of the story. So I will try to bring some clarity for the most common questions I've read in the comments. Number 1. The family composition. My family is composed as follows. Dad married mom and had 3 sons. I'm the one in the middle, and Dad died when I was 5. Mom married stepfather when I was 8. Stepfather already had a daughter my age. In time, mom and stepfather had 2 more sons together. And next problem, drinking. There's been some discussion about me and alcohol, so here it is. I began drinking alcohol when I was 12 years old, and I began smoking cigarettes when I was 10. Today, I don't smoke cigarettes anymore, and I drink one beer every other weekend. But in the meantime, I did become a heavy drinker, apparently due to my lack of communication skills here. It is understood that I've always been drinking heavily, which is not the case. Apparently, due to my lack of communication skills here, it is understood that I have always been drinking heavily, which is not the case. Ever since I started, I never stopped. I had at least one drink a day, but I was not a heavy drinker the period of my life when I was attending university and beginning my career and married life. As it usually happens, it began increasing in time. From ages 12 to 18, I would drink a couple beers a day. Then from ages 19 to 25, I would drink 4 beers and 1 or 2 glasses of something stronger. By ages 26 and 33, I would consistently drink half a bottle of rum, starting from the afternoon and ending at night. And whatever, from 2 to 6 beers during the morning, and from 34 to 38, I probably drank a bottle a day. I don't know if you have ever met a functioning alcoholic, but this is not that hard to do if you spread your drinks throughout the day. Cell phones in the 90s. Wow, this was a huge deal, and I never expected it to. And rereading, I can see I can provide some clarification. The period of time I'm referring to goes from 1997 to 2002. I was 13 years old in 1997, and mom already had her phone. By the time I was 16, all the kids around me had theirs. This was just how it was where I grew up. I can understand other countries or cities may have been different, but this was my reality. I'm sorry if from my original text I might have hinted that this was in the early 90s. Legal issues. This to me has been the most controversial thing, so I'll try to address it as simple and as clear as possible, beginning from the fact that different countries have different rules for this sort of things. Now, besides the law, it is also important to include the specific idiosyncrasies for a certain place in particular. Regarding the place I am from, defamation, as I try to explain in some comments, is a crime that exists on paper, but not one actively available for the general populations. It is done in such a way that even when you prove beyond doubt that you were defamed and put the other in prison, the same trial transcripts can be used against you by the other person and can put you in prison as well. This is mostly because even when you proved it to be true, by doing so you defamed the other because the other's name is now tainted. I know how it sounds, but that's how it is. This is even more applicable when the other person is a woman or identifies as a woman or is part of any minority. There is also another component. Legal action is expensive, long, and most of the times even worse than not doing anything at all. Especially with cases like this one. There is just no point in pursuing, except if something definitely more serious happened. For example, she filing a fake criminal case against me or publishing in a national paper her allegations, etc. In most other cases, most times, you just walk away. Family dynamics. It is not possible to me, nor will I willingly do so, to fully explain here the particulars of the family I grew up and the certain conditions and characteristics of how the general atmosphere and costumes were. By the general description I've given, is quite easy to determine my country of origin. What I can tell and share beyond what's already out there, it being too much or not, is that it was very secretive, toxic environment with a lot of submission, abuse, harassment, etc., but only in the inside. To the outside world, it was an exceptionally great Catholic family. Some people have commented how contradictory it apparently is by saying I had no money, bought a car, was kicked out, and couldn't leave. I know I didn't differentiate this enough in the timeline. For the first time, in families like mine, they just wouldn't let you leave when you are younger. period. Remember also, we're talking here about a time before smartphones. It was a different world. Secrets were easy. Growing up in a family with so much abuse and absolutely nobody in your corner messes with your mind. At least that was for me. When I finally could, I left and put the distance I could. About the car, I was able to purchase it after leaving the first law firm and getting a higher paying job. Now, about me seeking validation, yes, that was of course my reality for years. It is not anymore, at least I don't think so, speaking of my family. I think this covers the most important controversies I saw in the comments. Again, there are so many, and I don't understand how kids or people today can do this so apparently easily. But for now, that would be pretty much it. There are no updates besides from my mom saying she shouldn't have apologized in the first place, because now she admitted wrongdoing. Then I have a reason to be mad at her. So anyway, if anything else happens, I'll update. Thank you so much for the support and love. Thanks.
Ugh. In my life I've come across two people just like this. They are absolutely diabolical. I wouldn't wish them on my worst enemy. That's how bad they are, and I'm not exaggerating that at all. The first one, I don't know if she's ever been diagnosed, but I definitely think she's at least bipolar. The second one has actually been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. But one thing is for sure, no one believes me when I warn people about them until they are on the receiving end of it. The first one is when I learn how to handle this type of people and to not engage. People like this, they feed off the argument. Simply put, don't feed the beast. You will not win because they will not stop arguing until you get tired and stop. And that means a win for them. They will basically argue you into submission. It's exhausting, and all the while they are in a crazy frenzy while arguing. They will harass one person until somebody else gets their attention, and they have someone else to harass and be their whipping post for all their problems. They are like a dog with a bone when they go after someone. They are in it to destroy the person. The first one went after a friend of mine and spent 5 years harassing and slandering my friend, trying to ruin her reputation and her life. She nearly did too. She was absolutely relentless. She made phone calls all over the world to slander and trying to badmouth my friend. The real kicker, the whole thing stemmed from her sticking her nose into my friend's personal business and getting mad when it backfired in her face and people got mad at her instead. She then blamed my friend for her ruined relationship with a mutual friend when she's the one that did it to herself. But she couldn't see that. It was much easier to blame my friend. We all ended up just cutting her off. And you're right, they hate being ignored. You can't win an argument with them, so the best defense is to not engage. They literally lose their minds when you do that, because how can they keep an argument going when you don't participate? The second one was a woman that I went to high school with, and one of my best friends got reconnected with her. She was pailing around with this girl, and I tried to warn my friend that this would be a bad idea. My friend didn't listen. Thought she was great. She moved in with her despite my concern, and within about a year, she fled the house with only the clothes on her back. And this girl set about stalking, slandering, and trying to ruin my friend's life. My friend was too afraid to go get her own belongings, even after a court appearance. Not to mention, the woman sold much of her stuff in a garage sale, and also threw stuff away to be nasty. This woman has since gone through several boyfriends and even a husband who she was physically violent with, but then claimed to be the victim. The most recent boyfriend is currently in jail for assaulting her. While I don't condone anybody to be assaulted, I can only imagine how much she got in this guy's face to push him to do that. I know how intense she can get. She will get right in your face, and she will push you physically, and I think she intended for him to get violent with her. Last I knew, she was suing him. Of course, all her online friends only ever hear how much of a victim she is. And unfortunately, she, a beautiful woman on the outside, she just has a crazy, screaming, nutty center. Many men would line up to date her because she puts on a good face when she needs to. Her friends, the ones she has, don't live near her, so they truly think she's the victim. Unfortunately, she's the common denominator in all her messed up and failed relationships, but somehow people aren't putting that together. But I guess if you have never dealt with someone like this, then it probably doesn't occur to them that there are people out there that are diabolical and evil.
And yeah, you just accurately describe a stepsister. The stories you tell, it's like I'm reading about my childhood. is just so difficult, especially when you get caught in the middle. It was so hard to be able to put distance because they just won't tell you. It's crazy. After learning from dealing with her, it has also helped me recognize certain traits in others. And that always is a big rule for me regarding whether I will want that person in my life or not. And that always is a big rule for me regarding whether I want that person in my life or not.